Hey, everybody. I'm Jared. I am one half of the Genius at Work podcast. The other half, the better half, she's out working her 9 to 5 right now while I'm here shooting this. This is actually the first time I've done an intro like this for the podcast. And the reason why I wanted to with this episode in particular, well, I guess there's a few reasons, and I'll get to that. First off, let me say, if you are a returning watcher, a returning listener, I thank you, and I speak for Katelyn as well when I say that we both thank you from the bottom of our hearts for tuning in, for engaging with us, for letting us know that you are listening. This is really pretty fascinating because I thought that we've been doing this for about 9 or 10 months now, but that's because we started shooting this episode, or this podcast, I should say. We started shooting it in February of this year, February of 2024, but we didn't actually release the first episode until April 1st. So that means that we've only been releasing the podcast for 7 months at this point. It's the end of October now. And in 7 short months, I'm not saying that we are anywhere near the viewership that I want, the level of engagement that I expect in the future, the number of subscriptions that I would like, but I do know that people are paying attention. I do know that people are listening, and it means a lot to us. We know because in this episode, we asked for questions from the audience, and we got 132 questions submitted, which to me is mind-blowing. I can't even believe that that's the case. I thought that maybe we'd get like a dozen or so, but 132 questions means that people are engaged, they are listening, and it obviously encourages us to continue with what we're doing. And the other thing is, I know people are also paying attention because I mentioned in this episode that in the last couple weeks, and it's happened even since we shot this episode, people who, some of whom I know, some of whom I've never met before and are complete strangers, have come up to me and to Katelyn and mentioned that they are listening to the podcast, that they like it, and they like what we're doing here, and even like given examples of things that they've appreciated and that have resonated with them. So that is like music to my ears. It makes me really happy to know that people are tuning in and appreciating what it is that we're doing here. And I thank you for tuning in and doing the same. What I'll ask is to please, please, please like and subscribe, comment, engage with us in any way possible. That allows us to not only know that we are on the right track and that people are listening and that you like what we're doing, but it also helps with the algorithm in terms of getting us more viewership, more audience. So I do thank you, and I do appreciate you, and I will ask you for that little bit in return. So thank you. Second, I am assuming, based on this episode, that there's probably a few new listeners here and a few new viewers. To you, I'll say welcome. I hope you enjoy the podcast. This one in particular, this episode is a little bit different from what we typically do, not just in the format in the sense that we're not normally answering audience questions, but I would say you're getting a different version of Katelyn and I in this episode than you probably will in most of the other episodes. Not to say that this version of us isn't real and isn't authentic, it absolutely is. It's just a different version, a version where you can see like the questions that were being asked in some cases are striking a little bit of a nerve. They're causing us to be a little bit more emotional. And just know that we're not usually like bringing this same level of energy to the podcast. So if you are new, I would encourage you to go listen to some other episodes. The first episode is a great one that kind of establishes who we are and why we have the podcast in the first place. Episode 3, Name One Genius That Ain't Crazy, is one of my favorite episodes. It's a fun one. I definitely recommend checking that one out. Episode 6 is one of the most viewed episodes. It's called The Dark Times, and it details a moment that Katelyn and I had about 8 or so years ago where we were going through a really rough patch. Katelyn in particular was going through a really hard time in every way, personally, professionally, in terms of our relationship. And that seems to have resonated with a lot of people. And a lot of people have brought that episode up to us. So that's a really good one that I would recommend. And then another one is episode 18, Release the Kraken, where I detail a pretty dark time that I went through earlier this year and how I got through that, which is, again, a really vulnerable episode. So I would recommend checking those out. Don't think that the way we are here is the way we are in every episode. Just wanted to make sure I said that. Finally, the last thing I wanted to say is that we did break this episode down into 2 parts. So we shot 2 hours worth of podcast answering these questions. There's a lot of really juicy information and details and answers and questions in that 2 hours, and we figured it would be better to break it up into 2 parts. So when the episode ends abruptly at the end of this, your audio didn't cut out, the internet didn't die, the video isn't broken, the audio isn't broken. Just know you'll get the other part next week, so you can expect that soon enough. Again, I appreciate you all. I appreciate you for listening. I also appreciate the questions, both the good ones and the ones that we found really challenging. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Peace.
How you doing, babe?
Man, this is the most nervous I've ever been for a podcast.
Why is that?
Because we're going to be answering questions today. We have a whole bucket full of questions here.
Don't lose a question.
I don't want to lose any questions. We have a whole bucket full, 132 questions. About 100 of them are the same basic question, more or less, or at least in the same vein. And there's a lot in here, quite a few, a lot more than I thought, that are coming at me pretty aggressively.
Yeah.
Which I was expecting some hate, but a lot of these, not a lot of them, there's a few recurring themes that hit me right in the insecurities in a pretty significant way. There's a lot of attacky ones, mean ones, or like general misperceptions in here. And there's like a lot that like are easy to brush off and I'm not that concerned about, but there's a few that hurt. That hurt. And I mean, that's what I'm asking for though. That's what we're doing here, right?
Yeah, for sure. But it's, again, it was very interesting to like see the questions coming through and being like, wow, like, yeah, this is totally like not what like the intention was like with this or with that, or just kind of like our dynamic, which like, I hope that question gets pulled.
I'm like very like uncomfortable here.
I mean, of course, because it's like, but again, it's gonna be really nice because we're gonna be able to like talk about it and clear things up, and hopefully for the people that did ask these questions, right? I don't think some questions people are gonna like our answer to them, but like, I think at least it like gives us like a second chance to say like clearly stay like our response to something. Yeah. And again, maybe clarify something for someone or help someone to see a perspective of like, oh, okay, I guess I see it that way. I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's fine for them.
There's no doubt there's a lot that I'll be doubling down on here. Yeah. There's a lot that I think one of the biggest concerns, I'll start by saying like Joe Rogan always says that he never reads comments online. He's always tells podcasters to not read comments online. And that's like a huge piece of advice that he gives. And I was always kind of like, I don't think that comments would bug me that much. Like you get a lot of love, you get a lot of hate, and there's a lot of love in here too. Like I need to point that out. There's like a lot of really good stuff in here, but it's like, of course, the negative ones that jump out to you.
For sure.
And it definitely did, like, again, a few of them poked me right in the insecurities, which is why when we were kind of like going through these, I was saying, okay, like when we're answering them on the podcast, we can't.
This lasted, go ahead. Sorry, the first 2 days you said this.
I was like, we can't get defensive. We gotta, be cool and like play it cool. But like the reality is like, pray for me. I'm about to hit the yay button because like I am going to just let you know exactly how I feel about these questions, about the misperceptions, and there's a few of them where like I've prepared like a rebuttal for, because there's some that are thematically the same.
Yes.
There's some that are thematically the same that I just like holistically disagree with, where I'm like, that's not true. And if you listen closely enough to the show, you'll know that it's like clearly not true. And it's a matter of how people are perceiving me, I think, mostly. But
I think something that's also interesting, because like when we put it on like the episode, like, for the people who listen, but we also like posted it on Instagram as like part of like one of the reels. We had it on the stories. So I think a lot of the questions then just came from Instagram. So it's from people who just see clips. And of course, some of the clips we chose were like set for a reason to catch your attention. So then you go listen to the episode. So I think like I thought of that like yesterday or today, probably yesterday. Today was too crazy at work.
That's definitely like,
but I think it's like people saw like only see what's on Instagram and don't see the whole episode. So they don't have all the context.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. And like, again, we are choosing like the wildest shit to put on Instagram because we know it's going to get attention.
Yeah. So that's why I think some of these questions.
And there is, because like there's a few things where like it's not that I haven't made certain statements, but it seems like people think that it's like all we talk about or like a big part of the show, when it's like I probably have mentioned that like twice, but because it's in the clips, people like overemphasize it maybe or something like that.
That's what sticks with them.
So yeah, I'm gonna just be very, very clear with my opinion on these questions. I'm so upset that I just yelled at Joy. So you can tell
that wasn't even a yell. That was just like you just saying.
It was a stern talking to.
It's more than we typically do with her.
And that's how on edge I am, that I just turned my beautiful little daughter away and said, "You need to go sit down. Now is not the time." That's actually what I said. I'm going to edit it out. But
he's like, "You can't love me?"
I know. I got too much on my brain. So the reality is like there are a few thematically that touch on a really sensitive nerve for me, that I literally like I didn't create a rebuttal, but I know what I want to say about it. And we'll get to those. I mean, I believe that we will pull one of them because like there's enough in there where
it's a theme.
It's a theme. Yeah, for sure.
But before we get to that, let's talk about our week.
Sure.
Because we had some great, besides the questions coming in.
It was actually like
we had a really great
awesome week. Yeah, no, this was a really, really good one. First off, we had a few home showings. We like to keep everybody updated on that. So we have that.
Yes, we did.
That was a nice win. And then what were the other ones?
Your client.
Yeah, I signed a new client this week, which is just a dude who's in the neighborhood, which like is cool, like in terms of like having him nearby. And he's just a guy that like I've been talking to for a couple months now. And the fact that like he decided to come on board, like I know that there's like so much value that I'll be able to deliver for him, and he seems like the kind of guy who's like actually gonna like get this shit done. And like I see so much potential that actually like this is one of the like my life coaching clients, my one-on-one True Fitness and Focus clients, and I'm just feeling like, oh yeah, this one's gonna be a good one. Yeah,
good,
which is cool.
That's great.
And then I had a couple other cool things from the weekend, but you had the most cool thing from the weekend.
Yes, my retreat.
Yep.
Yeah, finally, my retreat with Julia Dars for our numeric psychology retreat was this past Saturday, and it was fantastic. And like all week, obviously, like leading up to it, and I'm again that organized, giving us deadlines. Do we have this? Do we have this? Making sure like we had everything ready to go for Saturday. By like Saturday morning, like I knew everything was good, and I was getting ready to go over to the retreat. And you're like, I'm so proud of you. Like you're about to like go like.
I told you on Friday night I was proud of you.
Okay, well maybe you said it multiple times, but I remember specifically Saturday.
On Friday, I was like, tomorrow you're doing your first retreat, your first retreat without me. I'm so proud of you. Yeah, and I did keep telling you probably.
Yeah, you did, because then you said it again Saturday, and you're like, you're gonna crush it, you're gonna do so great, and like, you're like, I'm like, it is weird going and doing this retreat, because anything like we've ever done where it's been like a community or a group, it's always been like us and True Fitness and Focus with our workout, with our fast, with like the events we posted. So like, to go and do this.
I think like for me, it wasn't so weird that like you were doing it without me. It was like the fact that I wasn't even gonna like be there at all to like even like witness it. Yeah. So I was kind of like, all right, you're gonna like go and do this for like 10 hours, and like I'm not gonna have any idea like how it went or how it's going until you got home. Yeah.
And it was so good, and it all was like perfect. And Julia did great leading it. She led the main part of it, and then I was just I was there to make sure, one, like all the supplies were there, everyone had what they needed. Morgan, we hosted at her place, so she was also we set up the night before to make sure the place was like perfect for people. This way then when Julia showed up, she could just get into her space and do what she needed to do. People that were there had great breakthroughs. People were realizing things of themselves, and one of the girls was like, this is a puzzle piece like of my life, and like I see all these areas of where I've been struggling or where I've been really, really good at all coming together, and the decisions I've made in my life and why I make the decisions in my life. And it was just it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Everyone that went there definitely got something out of it. Our friend Anna, she was there also, and she led like a beautiful breathwork setting in the beginning and then at the end to close it.
Yeah.
So that was great. Everyone really enjoyed that, and it was just a way to like, one, at the beginning, just to like calm your nervous system going into something that was probably going to be a little bit nerve-wracking to know and like uncover these things about yourself.
Yeah.
And then at the end, again, to close it, to make it very just, again, grounded and centered of leaving the event. So it was great.
Everything I saw.
I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah. And I think people were walking away already saying like, hey, I want to know the rest of like the puzzle, because like it wasn't explained like how there's a star and like there's only so many numbers that you give at once, but like it kind of gets more complex.
Yeah. So at this event,
right?
So
Did I explain that right? Like
so there's the 5-point star and then the center. So there's 6 numbers total that we covered. And it's personality, spiritual, money, mission, relationships, and health. But then within each of those triangles, there's like 6 or 8 more numbers within those triangles. And there's reverse numbers. There's ways you can be living in like the negative of all these different things. There's the karma that you're carrying from your mother's side, the karma you're carrying from your father's side. So it's deep.
So, but you only went through like those foundational
We only went through
numbers.
like the main 6 numbers.
So basically like moving forward, you can like do probably dozens of different retreats based on each individual like section of the star and like all the various like variations on it, I'm guessing.
And again, Julia is a very creative, smart, business savvy woman that she essentially created a like 4-month program for the people that went to this event to say like, hey, you liked this? Now here's a 4-month course that's going to go into every single number, every single detail, every triangle. And so now moving forward, we had that as kind of like a continuing program and offering to people.
That's cool. Awesome.
So it was great.
It was
really,
awesome.
really good.
I was like, and when you were out with Julia on Saturday night.
Yeah, we went out and celebrated, and it's her birthday too, so we went and celebrated.
And I was out doing a boys' night, and I on the way back home, I linked up with y'all, and I was like, I'm so proud of you both.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
I was really like super proud. And you mentioned Anna was a part of it. She's an awesome breathwork facilitator. She is going to be the voice of True Fitness and Focus Meditations. So we're going to be recording that. I was thinking maybe in the laundry room might be a good place to record.
Probably, just for sound.
Yeah. Well, that's neither here nor there.
The magic closet.
Yeah, the magic closet. It's the only time I've ever entered the laundry room.
That's probably a question that comes up.
We'll get there probably. That's kind of cool too. And I guess like what my point was like, it's just cool to like see the level of collaboration between like you and Julia, and then have Anna there, and then like there's other opportunities for like me to be a part of collaborations in the future. Anna's collaborating with me. It's just like all that is really fun as we're like building out this coaching stuff.
And then like while Anna was there, like someone who had done like breath work or meditation or anything like that, she was like, wow, this is amazing. I love this. And I know my daughter would love this and her friends would love this. So like they exchanged info. So that's like potential growth in business for Anna to like grow her like spiritual practice, which she's working on. Yep. So it was really, really good for everybody.
For sure.
So
and while you were out celebrating your retreat, I was out
on Dirty 6. Julia loves the piano bar, Darwin. So we went there to celebrate for her.
As you should. I was over at the Proper. Basically getting like being almost tricked. I'm not gonna even say it. Never mind. I'm not gonna say that. But while I was there, something really cool happened where I was in the lobby of the proper. Keep in mind, this is F1 weekend and the UT game is going on, the UT Georgia game. So like they were saying it's like the biggest event weekend in the history of Austin, which like likely it was. Downtown was wild, and certainly like the proper was like packed, and all the clubs over there on West 6 were like, or in like that area were like really packed. It was pretty lit. So we're in the lobby at the proper. I'm with some friends, and a guy like in a UT shirt and a hat like walks in. He's like great, and meanwhile, like there's like celebrities in there.
Yeah.
Like there's Gordon Ramsay, and like I guess like this is probably not a celebrity to most people, but Murder on the Beat. So it's not nice. He's a hip hop producer, and actually like I like Murder Beats a lot. He was there, so like there's like celebrities in the area, and a guy walked in and passed me, like behind me, tapped me on the shoulder, and he's like, "Hey man, I really like your podcast." And like I turned to him, and I was like, because I wanted to make sure that like he wasn't confusing me with somebody.
Right, for sure.
So like I like stopped him. I was like, hey, I like my podcast, and he's like, yeah, man, I love it, or I listen a lot, like or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that was like that's something that I knew was coming, but for it to happen is kind of surreal. And like we get views, we don't get like anywhere near the views that like I want to have or that I anticipate having. But like, and even like subscribers and like interactions, everything is like so much less than I anticipated. But I know that people are watching. I know people are paying attention, especially now. I know people are definitely paying attention, or some people are paying attention.
Yeah.
Some people just want to mouth off.
Okay, we will get there. Oh my God.
But to have that happen is a really cool milestone for me throughout this journey. The fact that we're only like 7 months in at this point, and that happened is like really cool. And then as that guy's walking away, I'm with like a group of dudes. A couple of them I've never met before, and a couple of them are like my close friends, and a friend of a friend also like leaned in at that point. He's like, yeah, man, I like your podcast a lot too. And I was like, you like my podcast? He's like, yeah, you and your wife. I'm like, on my couch in my living room, that podcast you listen to? He's like, yeah, it's really good.
What do you mean? Of course.
And I was like,
fuck wouldn't listen to this?
Like, well, thank you for saying that. Like, that's cool. So like, and then like the other friends were like, yeah, it's like they were like jumping in and like you know saying like that was like that it was cool that happened. And then we talked about the podcast like briefly, but like that's like a pretty cool thing. And we'll get to like with more attention comes more energy in your direction, and that's can be positive and negative. And again, this is a clear demonstration of that. And I think like the biggest concern before we get to the bucket of destiny,
I want to get comfy for this.
Is that I'm really careful with the words that I choose, and like I don't say something haphazardly. I don't say something just to hear myself talk, even though I love to hear myself talk. I say things and like I mean them. That's kind of like my thing.
Yeah.
And it's and because of that, like I am specific and very careful with how I say things, and like I try to be a clear communicator. I do everything I can to be as clear of a communicator as possible. And I say try because clearly, no matter how clear I make an effort to be, there's a lot of misinterpretations, I guess you could say. And the one thing that I think is the most interesting is like, again, if these were let's say there's like 20 bad ones in there, which there probably is, something like that. If those were each 20 totally different opinions or perspectives, I would go, okay, well, like none of them are like valid. They're just like whatever.
Yeah.
There's, again, a few common themes that we'll get to, and those are alarming because it means like there's clearly something that I'm saying that's being perceived
for sure
in mass. It's differently than how I wanted it to. But that doesn't mean that I'm backing down on some of the things I said. I just need to clarify certain things that I said, and I'm very careful with how I choose my words, so you can rest assured I know what I said.
So listen up. Shall we do it?
Let's get to it. I'm going to pull them. I'm just going to hand them to you.
Yeah, because I have to read the questions.
Yeah. And then
That's my job.
Yeah, we'll go through this. I know how I generally want to answer some of these more difficult ones. I'm going to be... We've talked about the fact that before we get started. I don't want to get... I'm like nervous about the questions. Because I don't know. I can't promise that I'm going to behave
I can't promise I'm going to behave. Especially there's going to... I know I'm not going to behave. And I think like some people think they're like, oh, poor Katelyn. But like, you like don't understand like the beast that's inside of me. And like,
we've
he
talked
has to contain,
about it.
I know.
We've hinted at
I'm like sweating already thinking
the
of
level of negative energy that she can expel. And even just talking about these questions, there was a lot of it coming out. You can see it in her eyes right now. And as emotional as I might get, and as defensive as I might get, I pray that joy episode is the only edit that we have to make here.
Yeah. Well,
because the only way I would edit is to protect you.
Okay.
I'll just say that.
Okay.
I'm saying that now. We'll see.
But like, let's
get into it. All right.
Sweating. Okay. Okay. Jared, have you ever considered getting rid of the blonde hair and going with your natural brunette? We all want to see it.
Okay. Good one, little fun icebreaker one to get us started.
Thank God.
Have I considered getting rid of the blonde? I've had it for 4 years now. The story behind the blonde, and I guess we'll go as long as it takes. We'll go as long as it takes. The story behind the blonde is, I always say, COVID broke my brain. It's what made me lose my mind. And I shaved my head like really early in COVID because you couldn't go to the barber.
Yep.
Or like, I think realistically, I just like wanted to be wild and shave my head, honestly. And I was like, I'm sitting at home, I'm going to do it. And then when it started to grow in, I wanted to bleach it. So I basically just like imposed a contest on my team. I had a few people on my team and I was like, I basically just imposed a contest where I was like, if we hit quota this month, then I'll bleach my hair. But it was just like an excuse to bleach my hair because I knew that we were going to hit quota. And
we're going to hit this. I'm good.
So I then bleached it, and I loved it.
With one of my coworkers, our friend, my coworker.
Roxy bleached my hair. And I loved it, and I kept it ever since. And since then, I've grown my hair out a lot longer. And like, I love the blonde hair. Do I like love continuously bleaching it and like going through the process and like having to deal with the everything that goes along with it?
Yeah.
Not so much, but I do love the way it looks. And the reality is, we're being honest with these questions. It's my brand, I think, at this point. People recognize me because of it.
Talk about Thursday night. You were at Morgan, I co-hosted the event with Julia.
And that's actually another thing, is I was at Pershing with a group of guys on Thursday night, and there was a guy who I hadn't seen in almost a decade that was there, and he walked in, and we had a conversation. We had like a really good like rapport and like a really good back and forth back then, and like we kind of like hit it off immediately again now. And one of the first things he said was like, I love you and your wife's podcast. He's like, I watch every clip, and like it's awesome, and like you guys are doing great. So again, a lot of love. At the same time, everybody wants to know if my hair is going to ever not be blonde. And yeah, so a group walked up that I had never met before, and they walked up and they're like, hey. And I was like, oh, hey, I'm Jared. And they're like, we know that blonde hair anywhere. Yeah. And I don't know who they were, but they're people that like you had met.
Yeah, and Morgan, who we hosted the event for the Aura retreat, was at Morgan's place. I worked with Morgan on Success Code with Julia like the last time. Like, yeah, like they know you just obviously through like my Instagram, but it's like she's like, I know that blonde hair.
Yeah.
Like it's your calling card.
Yeah. So I think at this point, I do love it. I do like the way it looks. Have I thought about getting rid of it? Yeah. But I think it plays too much for the brand that I don't think, I think I'm a slave to the blonde hair for the foreseeable future.
Be my twin.
Cool. That's my answer.
Good answer. All right. Are you looking for a third? That one's in there a lot.
We hear that a lot. So the answer is no.
No. Oh my God. I guess you're going to save all the, hard ones.
Really?
Beatles or Stones?
I know who submitted this one. Even though these were all anonymous questions. And by the way, the anonymous is clearly like what was what helped here.
Oh,
but
definitely.
I know who submitted this one. You go first.
Beatles.
Yeah, the
Like,
Beatles. Without a doubt, the Beatles are the best band of all
Yeah.
time. Paul McCartney is a genius.
I
John
went to
Lennon.
ACL my first and only time at 6:00 at night to go see Paul McCartney play, and I left the moment he was done playing.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with the Beatles.
The Beatles are like geniuses, in my opinion, and that's not to say the Rolling Stones aren't, but
Yeah.
I think like the Rolling Stones are cool, but the Beatles are brilliant.
Yeah, they're geniuses.
The big ones are usually the mean ones.
Here we go. All right. Whew. That's a wordy one. The whole premise of this podcast is set up that Jared is some genius at work who we should be taking advice from. While it seems like you may have had a successful sales career, the gym you were going to start failed before you even opened, which resulted in a large financial loss. And within the span of this podcast, you have gone from attempting to open a gym, becoming a personal trainer, to writing a book, to starting a couples therapy company. I'm confused as to why we should be taking your advice on anything when you have yet to accomplish anything significant within the areas you're giving advice. Okay. Do you want this to kind of refer back to?
Yeah, I do, because with these long ones, there's a lot of components to them, and I'm gonna I'll take it piece by piece. The whole premise of this podcast is set up that Jared is some genius at work. Yes, I am a genius. That is part of what the show is about. I am calling myself a genius, absolutely. The genius that's at work, however, is a matter of throwing fear out the window, not allowing it to impact your decisions, because, quite frankly, yes, this year has been scary in many ways as I leave my long time, as you put it, what'd you say?
Successful, I think, sales career.
It said, had a successful sales career. Okay, so yes, I did have a successful sales career. I'm walking away from that. That takes a certain level of balls, a certain level of guts. And what I found is that the more I don't allow fear to impact me, the more I let true love flow through me. That is the genius of the universe. I am hooked up to a portal. I am having that come through me and come out of me in the form of the work that I'm putting out there. I said earlier this year, I do consider myself to be an artist. I think that I, as a person, and I think the life I create for myself is a piece of art. And at this point, I'm incredibly happy with the art that I've created. So it says here, I'm some sort of genius at work who we should be taking advice from. You could take the advice if you want. The advice that I'm giving on this podcast, some of it is things that I know incredibly well as it comes to fitness and health and mindset and getting things done, as well as relationship advice. That's the advice that I would say you should be taking from me. Everything else is just me documenting my story in real time as it's happening, the ups and the downs, when the genius is at work and when fear is taking over. So that's what I would say about that. While it seems like you may have had a successful sales career, a very successful sales career, the gym you were going to start failed before it even opened. Yeah. Resulting in a large financial loss. Yeah. Again, we had a lease right down the street. The reality is that gym not opening and us getting out of that lease for a variety of different reasons was the best thing that literally could have ever happened to us. Because if that actually did open, it would have truly bankrupted us, and it would have been an even larger financial loss. So yes, it started, it didn't open. I wouldn't say the gym failed. I would say the idea of the gym failed. And within this span of this podcast, you've gone from attempting to open a gym, sort of, being a personal trainer, still am, I'm a coach, to writing a book, to starting a couples therapy company. So I had a gym. I started this year, let me just clarify here, saying that I haven't accomplished anything. I've accomplished a tremendous, now I'm just going to get defensive. I don't want to list my accomplishments.
Just state the facts. I think that's what I'm going to have to keep going back to.
To say that I haven't accomplished anything is ludicrous. I don't want to get defensive. I weighed 285 pounds at 19 years old. 14 months later, I was a natural bodybuilding champion. I was literally graduated at the absolute top of my class in undergrad. I graduated at the top of my class in law school. I've maintained superior physical health through the age of 37, which I am right now. Stronger, faster, fitter than any other 37-year-old that I possibly know. In just about every single way. I have a 20-year relationship with my high school sweetheart, who is the most beautiful, stunning, and incredible woman who I've ever met in my entire life. We have what I think most people would consider to be an incredibly successful and fulfilling relationship in just about every way. I started at an absolutely entry-level sales role to creating an incredibly successful sales career over the course of 11 years, moving into leadership and then building out basically like if you buy or sell a home, you're 30% likely to be using a software that didn't exist before I brought it to the market. As a result, we have 2 houses in East Austin. We have built several successful businesses. That was just up until the beginning of this year. Since this year, when I walked off the plank and I left my job, you're right, I was going to open a gym. I guess what you're saying is like I should have probably gone back to a 9-to-5 job after the gym turned out that wasn't going to work. No, I decided, you know what, I got to figure this out. During that time, you're right, I did start as a personal trainer because that was something that I could do immediately to
and make money,
make some money and have a career. From there, I decided, you know what, I'm also going to write a book because I have a lot on my mind. I have a lot to say and coincide that with the podcast. That book became my entire programming for True Fitness and Focus, which is now a completely built out program that I can deliver to clients in order to help them get fit, stay focused, and find their purpose and attack their purpose in life. So yeah, the book is now like a workable program. And on top of that, like we have the couples coaching that is about to launch. So we're going to have, in just 9-10 months, I've gone from building 1 successful business to about to be 2 successful businesses. And in the meantime, I started a podcast that you're submitting questions to. So, and that was just 7 months ago. So if you're asking me why you should be taking advice from me, I mean, I'm not saying that you should be taking advice from me, but I'm saying like, you can listen to me if you want, which it seems like you are. So.
Yeah. What have you done?
I'm not.
How do you measure success? Metrics?
I'm not saying that like I've accomplished everything that I want to accomplish, or that I've accomplished everything that everybody should want to accomplish, but I certainly have accomplished a lot.
For sure. All right. This is a fun, lighthearted one.
Okay.
Why Austin? You both seem to really love living there, but I'm wondering what is the draw and if there's anywhere else you would consider moving to. Would you ever move back to New Jersey?
You take that one.
Why Austin? I feel like when we first moved down to Austin 11 years ago, we came down just to be like, let's get out of the Northeast. We'll go down and live there for a few years. We'll end up going back to Jersey. And we were just like, let's give it a try. Like, why not? Like, Jay was living here. We like visited a couple of times. I fell in love with it and basically was like, we're moving down to Austin. Like, let's go. And I mean, we came up on like that third year and we're like, all right, we'll just re-sign like our lease to our apartment. And it kind of was just like year after year, we're like, all right, well now it's like, we're financially stable. Like, let's buy a house down here.
Yeah.
Then we got to a point where like, all right, let's buy a second house down here. Let's build our businesses down here. Let's have our life down here. And I just love Austin because it's a great city. You get your city life, but then you have like the small little neighborhoods. There's such a great like community and kind of like community and like whatever you want to find.
Yeah.
If you want like a fitness community, if you want like a party scene community, if you want a spiritual community, if you want a run club, a walking club, like there's so many different avenues and different ways you can like live your life down here. And it's fantastic. And the weather is awesome. Like being out of the Northeast, being out of the snow. I don't think I could see myself moving back to Jersey, one, because of the weather, and also just the pace in life and like what's up there. I just would not want to be a part of.
Yeah.
If we were to move to somewhere else, it would just have to be somewhere warm like this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to move out to California. California is beautiful, but like I have no interest in being in California. But yeah, that would have to be, if we were to move, it was going to be based on like weather.
Yeah.
At this point for me. Like, yeah.
I mean, good
Why
answer.
Austin?
I think like, did I answer that last question okay? I was listening to you, but I was thinking about my last answer that entire time and how defensive I was.
I mean, you did. You got a little defensive at the end, but like, fuck it. Like,
Okay,
who cares?
whatever.
Like, again, the person, like...
Right, I was listening to you. I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying. This is actually something we never talked about on the podcast. When we first moved down to Austin, like I had a tough time with it at first. I liked Austin theoretically, but 11 years ago, Austin was a much more hipstery city. It was not nearly as metropolitan and built up as it is now. And that's what was cool about it. But coming from New Jersey and New York, it was a real culture shock. I always tell the story of like the first weekend that we lived here, we were down on 2nd Street in like the 2nd Street district. And it was like just us and some guy on a Saturday morning, like crossing paths. And he said, "Hey, good morning." And I turned around and I was like, "Do we know that guy?" Because like that was something that was just like we weren't used to.
For sure.
And not to say that I didn't like that in particular, but like that's how different my like understanding of like city life was from Austin.
Yeah.
And it took me probably like a solid year at least to like fully assimilate. Especially like once I found a job and I found like a little bit of like a community of my own, I started to assimilate. But what I like to say is that over the last 11 years, I met Austin halfway and Austin's met me halfway, because it's really grown into a city that like is at this point like completely perfect for me. It's built up where you have like the cool casual stuff, but you also have like the more like high end, like bougie things that you could do. So like there's a lot more variety there. The food is outstanding. Everything you said about like the different communities that you can join, that's 100% true. You could probably like talk about that for 15 minutes.
For sure.
The fact now, especially, that like it basically is like new media, the capital of new media. It's like it is to new media like podcasting that like Hollywood was to movies in like the 30s or like the 20s or the 30s. And the comedy scene.
I can't believe I didn't even mention the comedy scene.
You didn't mention that, yeah.
God.
We have like 2 or 3 comedy clubs in walking distance of our house, not even counting the mothership, which we go to pretty frequently. Tons of great gyms, tons of great I would say like entrepreneurial, growth-minded people who like have purpose and are driven in that direction. Like that's the kind of people that I want to be around. So yeah, at this point, like I can't imagine living anywhere else other than Austin, especially like with what we're doing.
Yeah.
This is the place for us. If I was going to consider living anywhere else, like the only 2 places that ever pop into my head are Arizona, just because I love the desert.
Yeah.
And like I always like kind of half jokingly say Miami, but like maybe Miami, like if I made enough money that it would make sense to like live in Miami,
cost
like
of living
maybe.
down there is...
And then, but more realistically, I would say like I would live internationally. I would want to live in Cabo, or I would want to live in like Italy or something like that. So like
sure.
realistically, I think if we moved, I wouldn't live in the United States, or maybe Puerto Rico,
Oh yeah.
because that's also a tax haven. So I think like probably something more along those lines than like somewhere like within the United States. Would I ever move back to Jersey? I sincerely doubt it. I sincerely doubt it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Next. Okay. Oh, okay. Jared, what's your favorite thing about Katelyn? Katelyn, what's your favorite thing about Jared? Can we go first?
I'll go first. It said Jared, what's your favorite thing?
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You go first.
Okay. I would say my favorite thing, if I had only one word to describe you, or like just one singular thing about you, is your commitment. Because it's commitment to everything in your life, to your health, your fitness, to me, to our love, to our family, to our friends. You're committed to providing the great life for me. You are so committed to everything, and like, therefore, like, that's my favorite thing about you, because like you do everything. Like, you say you're going to do something and you do it, and you follow through with it. And if like something happens and you have to pivot and make a different decision, you're gonna figure it out some way to stay committed. And that's again to like business stuff, but that's also to like our relationships, like to my relationship with you, but then our relationship with our friends and our family. Like, you're committed to like nurturing and fostering like wonderful relationships with people. And so your commitment is very important for me.
I'm committed to the things that I commit to. I'm not committed to everything. I'm committed to the things
well,
that
that's
I
you're committed. Yeah, I'm not saying you're committed.
Well, you said you're committed to everything. I want to be clear. Like, I'm not committed to everything. I'm committed to the things that I commit to.
Correct.
But I appreciate that, because that is something that I like about myself too. I mean, you know what I'm going to say. You don't know what I'm going to say? I feel like it's the opposite side of that coin, which is like the thing I love most about. There's so much I love about you. I just want to be very clear about that, and I tell you all the things I love about you. But the thing that
this is asking for a favorite thing.
The reason why this has worked is because your level of like support and love for me is beyond anything that I should have ever expected from a significant other or from a wife. Certainly never should have expected it from a significant other or a wife as beautiful and as gorgeous and as like talented and as like absolutely incredible as you are, and so good at being supportive, all the way down to like the things that, like the fact that you got so fired up about these questions and about like some of these people attacking me, like, while of course, like, we have to, just like I have to work on the defensiveness, like that, and that emotion is not always like the most positive. Like, the fact that you care that much about me,
for sure,
is
I'm a
unbelievable. And like
protect.
Last week, we were doing steak and potatoes. We have like this like natural ketchup that we use, and we didn't have it for the grilling night, which like I don't care, like it's fine. But like, you got bent out of shape because you forgot the ketchup. And then you forgot it again. And again, like, I don't care. I can eat potatoes without ketchup. But like, your reaction to not having ketchup the first time was really bad. But then your reaction to not having ketchup the second time was like absurd. And like, that's simply because like you thrive in that like support role.
For sure.
And like, even something that small, like, you feel like you're letting me down. And like,
but like, I let myself, like, I take that as like a thing to me, like, why, how did I like mess and like forget that?
I know.
And it's such a silly thing, but to me,
because you
it's
take
like,
such pride in
like,
that.
For sure. Like, and like, last night we had a grilling and like we had burgers and I made sure I had the ketchup. Because it's like, I need to have all the things for like, and it's not just for you. Like, I don't want people to think like, it's just like, because you're my husband. Like, that is me, like, in my nature, is to be like, go above and beyond for everybody and make sure everyone is taken care of. Like, when we host people at the house, when I go to people's houses.
But it's that like drive in you to like be that person that I love so much. I just think it's inspiring. It's adorable. But again, I say, I can't be me without you.
Yeah.
I can't be me without you. And the support that you've given me, all those lists of things that I've accomplished, like, is literally only exists because of the support that you've provided for me along the way. And again, there's probably more questions in here that speak to that. So,
yeah, that's sweet. Love you.
I love you.
Oh boy, we got the big one. Oh, okay. All right. As I listen to the show, I'm genuinely concerned about Jared's mental health. Instead of coming to his terms with his fears and insecurities, he calls them his pussy and pushes them further down instead of facing them head on and talking to someone about them. Has he considered seeking professional therapy? It's only a matter of time before anyone can no longer suppress anxiety. I think confronting your emotions and talking about them is actually the more commendable, courageous, and healthy way to deal with the real challenges you face, rather than acting like you're too strong for them to truly affect you.
Yeah.
Do you want to have that
Sure.
as a reference? This is one I wonder if someone just saw a clip.
Yeah,
I don't think someone gets the context.
That's what I'm going to say first and foremost.
Yeah.
Is I'm thinking about this on like multiple levels, which is number one, if somebody's listening to this episode for the first time, this is not, I think, the best representation of us as people. Like, most of the other episodes, I would say, are like generally optimistic in nature for the most part. And like, I think show like a little bit of a more loving side to us. Like, I am being really defensive right now. So the reason I'm saying that is because this is clearly from somebody who has not listened to the show.
Yeah, but it does say, what's the first sentence? As I listen to show is what it says. So we know what kind of... Stop.
I'm sorry. But as I listen to show, I'm genuinely concerned about Jared's mental health. I said it in the third episode. Name one genius who ain't crazy. I've acknowledged fully that based on society standards, I have gone crazy and I'm getting crazier. I will say my life gets better the crazier that I become. I've literally considered the fact that maybe I'm A, bipolar, or B, schizophrenic. And the more I just lean into those things, the more life seems to hand me exactly what I'm hoping to have. So, you know what? Like, I was concerned about my mental health. Now I'm not so much. Name one genius that ain't crazy. And yeah, I do have crazy expectations of myself. I have crazy expectations for my life and for what I seek to accomplish right now, which is why I put myself under crazy pressure. We've talked about that in the past. So, like, let's just get right off the bat. Like, yeah, you probably, like, by your standard, I'm probably mentally unhealthy. Yeah. But we all know what I think of society standards, which is to be average and pathetic, which I refuse to be. Instead of coming to terms with his fears and insecurities, he calls them his pussy and pushes them further down, instead of facing them head on and talking to somebody about them. Not true. Those fears and those insecurities are the pressure that I put on myself. So my pussy is when I start to worry about things, about things that I shouldn't be worrying about things that are outside of my control, and a lot of that results in me putting too much pressure on myself. If you listen to the show, this entire show is about me being wildly vulnerable and
he talks
opening
about his
up
feelings.
about my emotions and my feelings. So to say that I push them down is definitely just not like even remotely true. Like the point of the show is I am sharing with the entire world, like me who like some people in here say like I'm toxically masculine. It's a show about me who looks like this talking about like when I'm having panic attacks. So I don't think that that's like what's happening here. Has he considered seeking professional therapy? No.
To be put on meds?
Yeah, like first off, like that's not going to happen. And also like, would I consider having somebody like a coach or like a therapist like work with me? Yes, but like they would have to be at an exceptional level in order to like, I need somebody who I can like mentally grapple with, and like I want somebody who can actually like challenge me effectively and not just like try to stick me into like some sort of like predetermined bucket. Like that's not going to happen. So would I consider it? Sure, but like you got to find me like Sigmund Freud himself, basically, or like Carl Jung, or
I think you
Jordan
like
Peterson.
Adrian Adler.
Maybe Adrian Adler.
Yeah.
Or Jordan Peterson.
Okay.
It's only a matter of time before anyone can no longer suppress anxiety. Again, like, yeah, I know. I mentioned on this podcast, like the panic attacks that I had for the first time ever, they were debilitating. They were something I never thought that I would experience. And yeah, like you're right. You can't suppress it. I think confronting your emotions and talking about them is actually the more commemorable, courageous, and healthy way to deal with the real challenges you face, rather than acting like you're too strong for them to truly affect you. Totally agree. We're on the same page.
Yeah, that's what we're doing here.
I agree that I'm crazy by your standard. I agree that I have crazy expectations for yourself. I also agree that in order to be a genius, you have to be crazy. And I agree that talking about your emotions is a positive thing and that you can't suppress it. Thank you.
God, this looks like another big one. Oh, okay, this is mine. Katelyn, you've mentioned how proud you are of nursing career, which makes me curious about something.
I know this one.
I'm wondering why you openly discuss consuming and distributing psilocybin mushrooms, which are illegal in Texas. You're hosting a retreat centered around this, and since it's a paid event, it would be considered both the sale and distribution of a controlled substance, which is a serious criminal offense in Texas. My question is, why talk about this openly on a public platform? And most importantly, is it really worth risking your nursing license over? So yes, on this podcast, I do talk about my consumption of psilocybin. I think the person probably took that, like, I went to a psilocybin retreat and the fact that I was hosting a retreat and kind of blended those two stories. The retreat that I hosted had no distribution, sell, or consumption of psilocybin. So I have nothing to worry about there because I didn't sell anything. And what I do in my recreational time is fine. I'm not putting any patient at risk. I'm not going high to work and affecting my care to people. So I have nothing to worry about.
You handled your answer a lot better than I've been handling mine. So good job. Good job,
This is very easy. This is like a very easy, like...
There's misconceptions there.
Exactly.
There's a people like wires were crossed with that person between retreats that you went to, things that you've done, and the retreat that you hosted.
Like,
so it's
I guess like the fact of like that we talk about like what we do and our like extracurricular activities or whatever you want to call it, like our like the psilocybin, like I don't know. I guess I'm like not too worried. I'm like, again, I'm not harming any patient. I'm not going high to work. I'm not hurting anybody. So like, what's the difference? I guess it's the fact that it's illegal here in Texas, but like, what's the difference of like people just like consuming like a shit ton of alcohol and going into work hungover? Like, imagine that care that patients are getting when a nurse is going in extremely hungover from the night before. I've been around coworkers like that. Yeah. I've seen what that care looks like. So maybe you should be concerned about those nurses. Thanks. I'll get a little defensive now. Because I know the care my patients get. Fucking shit. Awesome. Oh, have you ever explored a polyamorous relationship? You seem like the type that may be open to this.
I can't believe that's actually, we got a couple other ones. We got one other one like this. I can't believe that was the first one like this.
Yeah, we've considered it.
Cool. Next. There's your answer. Ask more open-ended questions if you want more open-ended answers.
All right. Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
Jared. Okay. It seems as though you do a lot of self-fulfilling acts while Katelyn put in effort for the both of you. Working 9 to 5, doing your laundry, cleaning, making the meals, packing your bags for trips, etc. I guess my questions here is, oh man, this sentence. I guess my questions here is what makes your time more valuable than hers? I know you'll probably say that you have different roles, but all of your roles seem to be only benefiting yourself.
Okay. So this is one of the ones that really hits me right in the insecurities. And there's a few reasons for that.
Again, no defense. Like, just answer.
No, I'm going to be honest and vulnerable and express my emotions here. This one hurts my feelings.
Yeah.
Which, again, I'm asking for. I'm not trying to play a victim here. I'm asking for questions like this. This is a fair question.
Again, I think.
And that's why it hurts my feelings, is because it's a fair question. It seems you do a lot of self-fulfilling acts. That is a really weird way of asking this question, because like your life should be self-fulfilling. You should be doing things that fulfill you. And if you don't, whoever wrote this question, like, I'm sorry for you. Because like that's what your life should be, is self-fulfilling. So the fact that I do a lot of self-fulfilling acts, like, yeah, that's how I decided to live my life. Maybe you should give it a try. Now where it starts to get bad is when you say, well, Katelyn puts in effort for you both. You working 9 to 5, doing laundry, cleaning, making your meals, packing your bags for trips, etc. Without a doubt, she does a lot, and she does an immense amount of work around the house, and a lot of that work is immediately apparent. Mm-hmm. It's tangible, and as I mentioned, that level of support is the only reason why I have been able to accomplish the things that I have accomplished in my time over the last 20 years since you've been a part of my life. So like, her doing those things, it allows me to free up my time to focus on what I'm best at, so that she could focus on the things that, as I mentioned, like getting ketchup, like she finds really fulfilling. I don't personally understand that.
I know. I forgot cheese last night for cheeseburgers, and you had to go out for it. I was like, I can't believe I messed up cheese.
That is a thing that like you like take pride in.
Yes.
And that you find like rewarding. And so those are self-fulfilling to you. If the person that's listening to this thinks it's weird that you find that self-fulfilling, like, then there's like, first off, one of the items that needs to be addressed is like, why can't that be fulfilling? That's what you get like pride from. Mm-hmm. The same way that I get pride from like building a business, for example. You do my laundry, you do the cleaning, you make my meals, you pack my bag for trips.
For trips that I don't have to plan. Like, that's the other piece. People are like, oh, you pack, and like, I'm like, yeah, but I don't have to worry about a single thing about this trip. I don't book the airfare. I don't plan the hotels. I don't plan the dinners. I don't have to worry about shit. So yeah, that's like the life of a princess. But I mean, packing the bags I like to do because I like organizing and making it efficient.
So like, I guess my question is, what makes my time more valuable than hers? I don't even understand exactly what that means. I guess because you're saying like I do things for myself and she does things for the both of us.
But you did building businesses for the both of us.
Yeah.
Like, you're building a life for the both of us. And I think the person just doesn't understand. Like, they only see the immediate. And like, because you're not doing a traditional, and this is where I'm going to get defensive, because like, I can't stand this kind of shit. Like,
Hasn't told you.
But like, this person doesn't understand that like a 9 to 5 for an entrepreneur, like that doesn't exist. So yeah, I work 9 to 5 in an office, and I get to be the fuck done at 5 o'clock and walk away. I come home, do what I need to do, go to the gym, do all these things. I get to sit at 10 o'clock at night and like catch up on text or read or do what I want to do. You're still working. Like, your time isn't just like, oh, I'm just self-fulfilling like my hobbies and doing what I want.
There's another one in here.
Like, you're building a business.
There's another one in here that says that I spend a lot of time just on my own personal hobbies.
I have more hobbies.
Again, no need to get defensive, even though I'm about to get as defensive as you're going to see me get, because like, I think that that's maybe a misconception based on a lot of the questions in here, is that you're like working your ass off, which you are. Mm-hmm. And that
we both are
not. So I decided I was going to like list the things that I've been working on.
Okay.
Because I am the kind of person who creates a plan, and I create spreadsheets. And in this,
oh man, we're in an hour already.
I know. And in this spreadsheet, my entire like, I don't know, we'll figure it out. Maybe after this, I don't know. I have my entire plan, and this is the last 4 months. So since the 4th of July, This is my entire like project plan of all the things that I have to do. So I guess I'll start by, this is going to be so defensive. I don't care. I really don't care. This is how I feel about this. I feel like telling people if they want to know
and I think
how I'm
you
spending
also,
my time. If the audience wants to know how I spend my time, I'll tell them how I spend my time.
and I think because this is such a sensitive one for you, so that's why you probably feel like the most.
This is a sensitive.
This was your big thing when you were leaving that like the corporate 9-to-5 world, and like I was going to work and all that. Like that was like very much a personal, private conversation that we had. You're like, I don't want you to think like any less of me. I'm doing everything I can. Like you had like major concern about it, and we discussed it, and like I'm on the same page with you about like what your work day looks like.
Yep.
Like you're working.
And this does poke me again, like right in the biggest insecurity I have. This is the one that drives me crazy, because during law school I said that you supported me, and I've done. I feel like I've done an immense amount to like not only like through the podcast and through other channels to like make sure that everybody knows how appreciative I am of that, but more importantly, like I want to make sure that you have felt like since then that everything I've done has been to show you appreciation for that. And yeah, the fact that like you do drive to an office every day, and this is just again being real and expressing my emotions, the fact that you do drive to an office every day and you're in that office, and that I'm home, and that there might be any perception out there, which I like assume that there was to some extent, that like I'm not working or that I'm just like lounging around and like not getting things done, like that eats me alive.
Yeah.
The idea that like I'm a man who's unable to or unwilling to or like not actually putting in the effort to provide for you as my wife, like murders me. The thought of that murders me. So that's why I'm going to get extra defensive right now. And I'm going to list all the things that I do. Because I'll start with like the things that I do like in a typical day and in a typical week. And I'll start with the things that are maybe more self-care focused and like self-fulfilling, I guess you could say. My morning routine where I meditate, I do my manifestation practice, I do gratitude, I do my jaw and exercises, I do my neck exercises, and I do my breathing exercises to make sure that my lungs are as strong as possible. I also do my workouts every day. That's about an hour to an hour and a half every day. I do a walk for an hour to an hour and a half every day. Now, sometimes I'm getting work done during those times. So now we're at like 3 hours of the day, roughly, is me doing things that you might consider self-fulfilling. My walks are like critical. I have client workouts throughout the week. There's usually like a couple of those. It's not like I'm doing that every single day. I have a handful of those. I have client calls for several hours a week. I do a lot of meeting and networking and having coffee and introducing myself to people who we might be able to like work with in the future or collaborate with, or just like for just general like social networking purposes. I think it's valuable, not social networking, but networking. I've been coordinating on selling 2 houses. Like that's another thing that takes up a decent amount of time. I'm running an Airbnb over at the other house. That's another thing that takes up a decent amount of time. I'm running this podcast, another thing that is like a marketing avenue for us, and is a way of us marketing ourselves and our Supernova business. Hold on, I got the other Katelyn texting me right now. I'm not sure what she's referring to. Sorry, I shouldn't be on my computer. So those are all the things that I'm dealing with like on a day-to-day basis. Now, since the beginning of July, here's the things that I've been working on in order to build our businesses. And this is not for one business, this is for 2 businesses, just to be clear. I built out dozens of different fitness programs for all of my clients, for their different goals, for their different like commitment levels, for the amount of equipment that they have. There was literally dozens of different programs that I built out from scratch, from the ground up, based on my fitness principles and my fitness beliefs and my fitness expertise. I built marketing copy for both businesses to make sure that we know how to effectively speak about these businesses, and that is going to be used in all of our various marketing channels. I built out a sales consultation plan for both businesses, offer and pricing for both businesses, sales decks for both businesses. I did Trainerize research to understand how that app works so that I can effectively provide it to my clients. I did my Fitness Pal research, even though I don't use that, so I decided not to actually use that. I did habit programming. So outside of fitness, all the habit programming for all of my clients in all the different avenues that I offer, which I'm not going to get into right now, but there's like 7 of them. I do intro offers. I had to build these out for both businesses so that if somebody doesn't want the big ticket offer, there's smaller ticket, more inexpensive options so that they can get their foot in the door with our business and then potentially be upsold in the future. I have dozens of guidance documents that I've created for both businesses around diet, around supplementation, around rest days, around meditation, around affirmations, etc. There's recipes. There's dozens of documents that I have built out with tons of really valuable content for my clients for both businesses. I had to build all of those out. I built out an entire onboarding and client success cadence for both businesses. I built out an entire onboarding email cadence for both businesses. I made an entire content plan for Italy to make sure that when we were there, we had a plan in terms of what we were going to get so that we had supernova couples content. I oversaw the building of 2 websites. I did an entire planning session and reached out to a bunch of photographers to get photo shoots scheduled for our marketing and website and promotional content. We actually shot both of those photo shoots. I did testimonial outreach to all of my current clients to get testimonials from them. Those came in the form of video. They came in the form of images. They came in the form of written testimonials. I had to reach out all of those, edit all of those, and put them into and synthesize them down into summarized content to be delivered in a variety of different channels. I cleaned up all my social media accounts to make sure that they're all on brand and they coincide with one another. And this is across all the various me, you, both businesses across all social media platforms. I built out, and this took quite a bit of time, a content plan for me, for you, for both businesses and for Genius at Work. Over 600 pieces of content. That's a year's worth almost of content for all of those accounts. I took a content course in order to understand how to make sure that I get more views and that I attract audience so that the content that I'm putting out there is actually valuable and it's driving eyeballs. I learned how to do Instagram ads. I still don't really know how to do Instagram ads, but I made an effort to learn how to do Instagram ads. I built out marketing email campaigns, a blog cadence campaign to make sure that I know how to systematically do that regularly over and over and over again once we start really putting out content. This way I never skip a beat, because that's what I do. I create a plan where I never skip a beat moving forward. I had to come up with a shoot, edit, and upload plan for all 600 pieces of those content so that I know how to once again do that systematically where it gets done every single time and I'm never scrapping for something to post, and that I know exactly how to systematically do that efficiently. So I'm doing it with saving as much of my own time as possible. I came up with a plan to use Telegram for my clients and to more effectively provide them with valuable information on a regular basis. I'm coming up with a group call plan to get not just one-on-one calls with my clients, but to get them into a regular occurring group to build community and for me to message one-to-many as opposed to just one-to-one. I'm doing coach and mentor outreach and coming up with a plan where I am going to find other coaches who I admire, who I can reach out to and hopefully have them as a mentor for me as I'm building my coaching business. I came up with a VIP client plan of clients who, or potential clients who I want to work with, people who I admire and I think I can deliver value from. So coming up with a list and an outreach plan for each of them. A podcast outreach plan so we can get on more podcasts, other people can get on our podcast. A PR plan so we can get promoted and be featured in articles and in other mass media. On top of all of that, we've managed to spend time with friends. I've been producing this podcast. I've been making content. I have a beautiful relationship with you. We spent a few weeks in Italy. So that's how I've spent the last 4 months of my life. I don't know what you've done with that time.
What have you built?
I'm not sure what you've done with that time, but that's what I've been doing in my free time. And I look like this, so you could suck my dick.
Oh boy, we're not getting defensive.
Whatever.
You do a lot. Are we still going?
Yeah.
How long are we going to go for?
A few more.
Okay. How far along are you in writing your book?
Guys, I'm sorry. I know I'm not being the best version of myself right now.
Well, okay. Let's go back. Just apologize and move on. If the person wants to keep listening,
I might have to like fast forward that.
I think so. You can just like, speed that up.